and Matt has graciously agreed to join us on Linux Quest again. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good, Rob. How about you, bud?
I'm doing well, man. So first time I've seen you in a shirt that's not black, buddy. What's going on? Are you celebrating Christmas early?
I'm not wearing green. I felt I'd be a little joyful seeing how we're looking at doing one of the quote-unquote most popular Linux distros today. And we're doing the proper version of it. So I would try to remain cheerful, I thought.
You mean the most popular Linux distribution ever? Are you talking about Ubuntu by any chance?
Yeah, but we're not talking about a flavor of it. We're talking Ubuntu proper. So for all those that want to run away screaming, I mean Ubuntu with Unity. And I don't mean the 3D video game engine. I mean Unity.
So when was the last time you ran Ubuntu, I'm going to call it generic Ubuntu with Unity? I mean, before now, of course.
But
we both installed it.
I have a, for those that want to know, this particular laptop was not my typical machine that I ran this on. This is my, shall we call it the Ugly Duckling Ultrabook that I have. This was not the typical ProBook install. I use this on a 17, see if I can get the actual resolution right. I think it's 1798 or something along those lines by 768 screen resolution, 14.4 Ultrabook. It's a Toshiba U845W something.
You said Toshiba?
Yeah. So it's a 14.4 21:9 aspect ratio laptop.
That is a strange bird, man.
One thing people will never learn about me is I always look for the weirdest technology to stick Linux on. For those that want the full specs, it's a dual core Core i5, 10 gigs of RAM, 32 gig M2 SSD with I think it's a 500. I think I upgraded it to a 500 gig, 7200 RPM hard drive. Those are the solid specs anyway. Having used Unity on this particular machine as like a daily driver for more than a week, I have used this as my daily driver on my Ultrabook since 1604 was put out. And for those that are wondering, yes, we're reviewing 1604, not 1610, because 1604 is usually the one that most people get stuck on if you're going to use Ubuntu Unity version, because the other one's only like supported for 9 months now instead of 18 or whatever. So that's my end of the story of it. So I will let you tell people how you experience Ubuntu.
All right. Well, if you go to Linux Quest, if you go to the channel, you'll notice that I have yet to have a review of Ubuntu generic, again, I'm going to call it, with Unity. And the reason is I can't stand Unity. I absolutely, as a matter of fact, you and I were discussing, you said, hey, let's do like a proper review on Ubuntu. And I'm like, well, what version, Matt? Like Mate? Or Mate, or Linux. What are you talking about here? And you're like, no, just regular, straight, generic Ubuntu. So, and I'm like, yeah, I guess maybe, I don't know. I hate Unity, but okay. So actually, I kind of got excited. It's been so long since I've installed Ubuntu Unity on anything. I thought, well, this will be cool. Maybe they've changed some things. Maybe I'll get into it. Maybe I'll see it in a new light and really, really like it. Not at all. So I've got it right here. If it's installed right here. In fact, so it's right here. And this is my little hybrid, notebooks or tablet / PC here. SSD drive, 4 gigs of RAM. It runs fine on it. Screen resolution and everything's fine on it. But I can't stand Unity. I just can't get past it. You know, I want to say this though. I want to talk about some of the good. First of all, the install was flawless and super fast. Ubuntu installs so fast compared to some of the other distros. That's about it. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, come on. I've done a video nitpicking on Unity. You cannot tell me that the only thing that is good about it.
No, there's more to it than that, of course. I mean, you know, I guess I will say this: it's uniform in its design. Although I think it's one of the ugliest themes out of the box that I've seen on any distro. I do not understand the choice in the drab, dark, just ugly colors and everything. To me, if you're wanting to attract a user, you want a very bright, you know, somewhat cheerful introduction to your operating system when you first launch in. And instead, you get this mishmash of browns and oranges and just, I mean, it looks to me like they went to a kitchen in 1977 and looked at all the colors and said, okay, let's mix these colors together and create a theme for our, you know, Ultimate Linux desktop here. So that's pretty bad, isn't it?
The default wallpaper leaves much to be desired. It is not, okay, how do I word that? Now, this isn't going to be so much as a review on Ubuntu in and of itself, because Ubuntu is pretty self-explanatory at this point. It will be probably more knocking on the interface because that is what we deal with the most.
Right.
I will caveat any of this review. I want to ask you, though, did you have any of the Wi-Fi problems that a lot of people seem to bitch, moan, and complain about?
I did not, and I was expecting to, but I do want to tell you about a problem that, and okay, hold on here one moment for me. I do want to tell you about a problem. So Wi-Fi worked fine. And that's the other thing I want to say is that with the exception of the occasional Wi-Fi issue, and if you go online and you search, you'll see that a lot of people had issues with intermittent Wi-Fi kicking in, kicking out, that kind of thing. You know, and I haven't had on this particular system, but I want to show you something. Now, mind you, and I left it this way, okay? I left it this way because I knew we were going to be doing the video, so I just wanted people to see. So this is a fresh install. I did all the updates. They're, you know, so everything's updated. Again, this is 1604. And here's what I'm going to do. This is molten. Now watch it make a liar out of me this time. This is after countless reboots here, okay? So I'm just going to launch the Software Center. All right, so it's loading. Oh, look at that. It wouldn't load. It's loading. Look at that. Now this is multiple reboots. This is after doing all the updates. Fresh install. So when did, let's see, we talked about this, and I downloaded the ISO, what was that, last week we talked about this?
I was to say about last week.
Yeah. So I have no idea what's going on. The only thing I know to do at this point would be to reinstall.
That is, I haven't checked my, because I usually don't use the Software Center, so I ended up actually installing Synaptic, so I can't say much in relation to the problem.
Granted, and everyone watching this video is going to say, hey, just install Synaptic, you know, just go into terminal and install what you need. And I get all of that, but here's my point. Okay, so you're brand new to Linux. You've never heard of Linux, and you know you got a buddy who says, you know, who's fairly new to Linux, and he says, "Oh man, just install Ubuntu. It's great." And you see how popular Ubuntu is and everything, and you do the install, and you get everything set up, you know. And if this is your first time with Linux, it could take you a while. So maybe you've spent, you know, we all take this for granted. Is what I'm saying. Is that maybe you've spent a couple hours and you're nervous, and you've got your first install of Linux going, and you launch in. Well, you want to go in there and look for applications, and then that happens. Now what do you do? So you go to Google and you start searching, and if you read, just go to terminal and type this and this and this and this, or copy and paste these 3 lines, and install Synaptic. Well, you're going down that rabbit hole for the first time Linux user who says, Ubuntu is one of the most popular Linux distributions out there. This thing must be awesome. And then you have this experience. Now, this is one experience on one machine. No hate mail here. It's just that this shouldn't happen with a fresh install on a long-term support release of one of the most popular versions of Ubuntu going today. So sorry about the little rant there, but
no, I do agree. And this is the part that this is both brilliant marketing by Canonical and very crappily done marketing by Canonical. It is brilliant that they associate when anyone has essentially, you equate Linux is Ubuntu or Ubuntu is Linux.
Right.
That is brilliant marketing. It is also bad marketing, because if the experience is not good out of the box, they're not going to come back.
Right. That's right.
And as far as the Software Center, I'm not sure why that's doing that for you, because I just booted up the Software Center on mine that I have installed, and it booted right into it. I didn't try installing anything on it, so I'm not sure if you might have like a hung up, install on something or whatnot, maybe. Because either way, but that is a bad first impression that it can give. Users do. Yeah. While we Linux users default to the command line, do we ask someone switching from Mac OS, God's stupid renaming conventions, do we ask anyone switching from Mac OS or Windows to go, hey, paste these commands into the command line or command prompt or whatever terminal? Right. No, we don't. We tell them to go to the software store or the Windows store or the Mac App Store or whatever.
Right.
That's how, or drag the DMG or install the exe. That is how you explain it to every other user. So why, when we talk about the new users for Linux, is it okay to be like, oh, just run it from the terminal? I'm sorry, this isn't 1991. We don't want the blinking green cursor or the blinking white cursor. We are past this, or we should be anyway, for the love of God. Then again, we are relying on almost 40-year-old tech in X11, so hey, what the hell do I know?
Well,
sorry, different tirade.
No, I'm with you, Matt. I mean, the thing is that I think about a lot of my videos from the perspective, and a lot of my reviews from the perspective of a new user, because ultimately I want to see more people using and enjoying Linux. The more people we have involved in Linux, the more people we have using Linux, the greater the likelihood that game developers and high quality software developers will take notice of that and say, hey, wait a minute, here's a pool of OS users that have grown 10, 12% over the last 3 years in the Linux community. Maybe we need to pay attention to that and start putting more effort and focus and time with our games and our software towards Linux. We can't achieve that till we've got the user base that I feel like we need to have. There's other ways to make that happen, but it involves, that green paper we call money. But anyway, so ultimately, I'd love to see more people using Linux. And the problem I have with this is this would be a turnoff for the guy or the girl who goes in and let's say they spend an hour trying to figure out how to get it installed, and they're successful with the install. Okay, is that fair? An hour, but then you go in and you have this issue here, and all they want to do is install one piece of software, or 2 or 3 pieces of software. And So, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a reinstall because I want to be fair here. It could be, like you said, it could be a bad install. We've all had bad installs. The weird part is everything else on here seems to work just fine. I've gone in, I've launched everything I could think of to launch into, and everything else is flawless and running fast and running well. So, you know, it's one of those mysteries, I guess, but I will do a reinstall just to make sure, and I'll clarify and add comments to the video and everything and clarify all of that. But I left it like this purposely to show people that I'm not pulling anyone's leg. It's just one of those weird things that's happened, you know.
Yeah, no, I hear it. Excuse me, because I know for me personally, on some of my older installs, and yes, this is using, you know, stock Ubuntu with Unity at like 1404 when I first used to install it. I don't know how many times I got the stupid little prompt as something has unexpectedly closed or crashed or, you know, whatever on startup, and I'm like, this is a fresh install. I haven't done anything. But to bring it back to Ubuntu, specifically Unity, stuff like that is a giant turnoff. And like I said, that is both brilliant marketing by Canonical and bad marketing by Canonical.
Right.
So, but to talk strictly about Ubuntu, Ubuntu proper, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, my issues are more, I'm glad there's customization. I shouldn't need to install a third-party tool to do it. This is kind of how I view like GNOME Tweak tool and all those kind of things. This is where I think other desktops like KDE and you know, even XFCE, LXQT. I can't remember. You know, there's too many of them. You know, all the other desktops seem to kind of get it.
Right.
You have sensible defaults, but you still have the customization. I believe in order to actually customize Unity and the dash and all that stuff in a properly decent way, you have to install the Unity Tweak tool.
Correct. That is correct. Or that's the only way, Matt, that's the only way that I have found.
Because, well, I'm talking, because if you go into the appearance tab or appearance settings for Unity, there is nothing there. You can make the launcher bar, you know, auto hide, and you can make it bigger, and that's pretty much about the extent of your customization. At least with Unity Tweak tool, you can, you know, I mean, you got your granular search option. I mean, I'm not going to get into them, but the lack of customization is something that really irks me. I shouldn't have to download the comps config settings manager, which is showing its age, shall we say, to tweak certain settings in comps. I shouldn't need to download a third-party tool to fix some of the things that should be the default. And, you know, it's just crap like that it's just like they bury everything.
Yes.
And that's my gripe, I think.
I'll equate what you just said. I'll equate it almost to the terms of Windows. You reach a point in Windows where your ability to go in and customize things is locked down. And in order to start really getting in, if you really wanted to do that, then you have to purchase, you know, Stardock software or something like that allows you to go in and really tweak and customize. Well, here with Unity, it's locked down almost more than Windows. At least within Windows, you've got a couple of default themes that you can easily switch to, and you can move your panel from the bottom to the left to the right. You know, but you're right. So you install Tweak Tool. That's the way I found to do it. But here's another problem with just the overall general out-of-the-box UI for me. I'm not, nor have I ever really been, a Mac user. So when my controls are on the left-hand side, it's like you just put me in a foreign world as far as working with an OS. You know what I mean? And it is like, I don't know where to find the setting to move those controls to the right. I'm still lost on where you go or what you download or install to move those controls to the right.
You can't anymore.
Okay, so
It is. I remember when when Unity first came out, it was still, I believe, GTK 2 based, if I remember correctly. It was based off, for those that want the long history of it, it's the Ubuntu netbook remixed with some GTK 3 crap now. And it's still, why it still looks like GTK 2, I don't know, but that's just what it is. 1104, you were originally able to, there was a hack you had to download or a script to run that you could move the bar down to the bottom and move it to the top, move it to the side and all this stuff. Then Canonical and their infinite wisdom in 1110 decided, like, we're going to hard code the bar and you can't move it. They graciously, in their infinite wisdom, let us actually move the stupid thing 5 years later. The moving of the start, open, close, minimize buttons, those for at least until 1204 that I remember, you were still able to move those. You had to download. I think you had to use dconf or you had to use like Unity tweak tool to move those back. I went to do that recently, actually, because I had been using other Linux distributions specifically. Right now, for those that want to know, I just recently re-upped my SteamOS version from Ubuntu base to, I went Arch or Manjaro. So everything is on to the other side now.
Okay.
So, and I'm using KDE. So everything's on the right-hand side. So the whole left side paradigm just makes no sense to me anymore.
Yep.
Want to change it, you look in Unity Tweak, you can't. Come to find out, thanks to OMG Ubuntu, they tell you there's an open bug for this too, by the way. This is a design choice.
Right. Well, and it's a design choice, and I get it. And if you came from a Mac, you're going to be happy with it. You're also going to be happy with the menu list that is in the unified bar. So whatever application you open, your menu list is up there in the panel, like if you were running a Mac, and all of that's fine. But if you come from a Windows environment, it's a foreign world for a lot of people when they get in. And part of me says, hey, they're coming from Windows because they want to use something different. And so from that aspect, it's different. But having used so many various distros and desktop environments, Matt, I know that there's something better, far better for me, And so knowing that, it's like, and I want to thank you for suggesting that we do this, because what it does for me is it enforces that me running KDE is a positive thing. So I owe you some gratitude, And me, man, I'm a half or glass half full. So we could be digging a ditch with a toothpick and I'm going to find something positive to say about it, But in this case, the only thing that I can really glean that is super positive from it is that going through this little experiment here really, really, really makes me appreciate running KDE. So.
Now, is that KDE Neon or is that KDE on top of just anything else?
No, KDE anything else, but currently I'm running and have been, this is, over 3 weeks now, I think, KDE 5.8.3 running on Antergos.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I'm on 5.8, some, I haven't checked recently. I know Manjaro kind of holds back on completely being a rolling distro by a week or two. So I understand what they're trying to do with the whole quote unquote convergence things. Unity 7 is stable, like in and of itself. Sorry. Unity 7 in and of itself is stable. It's just there's something about the way it is designed. There's like this weird, like, it's got a touch UI element to it. You're running it on a hybrid. I don't know about you. If I see the dog, I want to poke at it with a finger. Like that's my shtick. But like then you open the dash and you're just like, this UI makes no sense.
Right.
Because it's like, you hit the meta key or the Windows key or whatever you want to call it, and it brings up the home dash. But like, you look at Android, you look at iOS. If you go to the home menu or whatever you want to call it, it brings up a list of applications. Unity doesn't do that.
Right.
So in order to actually I have a lot of applications installed because I've had Ubuntu on this thing for like 6 months. So I have like PPA'd the crap out of this particular install, which FYI is bad. Don't do. But it's like, why do I have this home tab? Why? The whole point of like the different tabs, the scope, skull, whatever you want, at the bottom is so I don't click as much. It is to
That's
get
right.
And these are supposed to be like context to get into what you need to. So why is that the default? So like, to me, the first tab on that whole interface, it should be that applications scope. Why can I not set that to the default scope?
Yeah. Well, and that just goes back to some of the things that are locked down the way they're locked down, and they're done with intent there, I think, to, like you said, allow it to scale. I want to throw out something positive. One other thing that is very positive. So this particular device here has a very high resolution screen for 11.6 inches from corner to corner. So normally what I'm facing with any OS that I install is I'm going into display settings and tweaking the resolution, tweaking the font size, things like that on my test system, not on my main device, because I have an external monitor that's 1600 by 900, which scales just beautifully on any distro. But on this particular device, I have to go in and do some tweaking and scaling and things like that. And one of the notes that I made was the scaling here is phenomenal. It's scaled right up. Everything seemed to scale right in place as it should. And I think a large part of that is due to the fact that they have things kind of locked down in a way that you don't find in other desktop environments. The icon size, the font, everything. When I scaled up, everything scaled the way it should, or the way you think it should, when you're doing that. So part of that helps with things like that, but it's the other things that far outweigh that one positive, in my opinion.
I am a very unique use case given the specs on this particular machine. 21.9. This is the only 21.9 aspect ratio laptop that I personally know of that has been put in production. I mean, you can talk 21.9, desktop monitors and stuff. From a laptop point of view, because basically, to give somebody an idea of how big lengthwise this particular Ultrabook is, this is as long this way as my HP EliteBook A730W. It's about half the size this way. So it is long, it is long and stubby. I will say this. the snap, like the snap feature, you know, arrow snap, call it whatever you want, you know, the snapping of windows and the side-by-side stuff for my use case makes Unity actually really good because it actually moving the dock to the bottom takes up the horizontal space or the vertical space because there's limited pixel space that I have from top to bottom. I only have 768. So I'm not going to move it to the bottom. So with a 21:9 ratio monitor, having everything to the left is fine, and it works out well. So I will give them props on that regard. And if the thing is, that is the design that they're going for. But unfortunately, it also drives me freaking nuts on the customization and the lack thereof, and just like some of the why is it that I have to like take like 6 clicks in order to find something?
Right.
Where, and don't give me the biggest thing is like any person that uses Unity on a regular basis, and like I said, I've been running it on this particular machine, which I've done more than one of these webcasts on with you using this machine. There's just some things that drive me nuts about Unity. And you can't talk about Ubuntu really without really diving into the issues with Unity or the lack thereof issues for you. Because Unity is the UI that you interact with. And Unity is also the thing that gives Ubuntu proper, or the, you know, whatever you want to call it, its identity. Because underneath it, if you just get rid of Unity and you throw, you know, Ubuntu, GNOME, KDE, whatever, XFCE, you know, LXDE, and all these other desktop environments on it, those desktop environments with Debian.
Well, what I was going to speak to as you were just talking about it, I'm a huge fan of Ubuntu Mate. I think that is an excellent distro. It's an excellent distro for a first-time user. You can go in and tweak things and set things up. If you look at the software boutique versus, you know, what you're presented with here, which I'd love to show you, by the way. That's mean. It won't open. It won't launch. I'd love to show it to you, but that's bad. Anyway, but for me, the whole issue is not Ubuntu or Ubuntu, however you want to pronounce it. It's Unity, because you take the Mate team and let them do their work on Ubuntu with Mate and the software boutique and the ability to launch right in with Mate Tweak, and man, it totally changes things. It totally changes the experience. For me, it takes it from a really negative experience with an OS to a totally enjoyable experience with an OS. And so for me, it's all about Unity, not so much Ubuntu. But as you said, for a lot of people out there who are not really into Linux, they're one and the same. It's like Tupperware. You know?
It's going to be like Tupperware. It's going to be like Kleenex. It's going to be like, you know, when MP3 players were a thing, you know, it's going to be like calling in an iPod when it's actually something else. So I get where some of the frustration from the Linux community with Canonical specific, because I'm trying to avoid stepping on toes, but you can't really talk about Ubuntu without talking about Canonical, because Canonical makes a lot of the hard code decisions when it comes to the Ubuntu desktop and the Ubuntu experience.
Yeah.
Currently, the experience, and I'm hoping this changes with Unity 8. I haven't tried we didn't do 16.10 because it's a short-term release. And while that has the Unity 8 preview, it doesn't really work. It is, calling it alpha build, you would be generous from what I've seen. I hope a lot of this changes with Unity 8, but with Unity 7, it feels like so many mishmashed ideas crammed into a UI that the UI can't get like they want to talk about maximizing space, vertical space and width and all this other stuff and saving pixels. Well, if you're really curious about wanting to save pixels, why do I have if I disable the global menus, and they always show, which is great. I love the fact that I can do that now. Why in God's green earth, if I do that, so that puts all the menus back into the actual window, what's the point of the giant bar across the top that does nothing? It doesn't
exactly.
It doesn't.
Well, it lets you go up there and click on a little icon that lets you shut down, reboot, and log out.
Which, let me think about that. You could put in the dock.
Yes, you could. And that's one of the things I made on my notes is why? Why can't I click on the dock somewhere and log out or shut down? Why do I have to go up here to the upper right-hand corner of that panel, to do that? So I don't know, man. I mean, like I said, I'm glad that you suggested that we go down this path because it truly, truly makes me appreciate the OS that I'm running.
And I hear you. What I will say is, as negative as I am with the current LTS version of Unity, I am able to do my work. I am able to do things. The design decisions astound me and make me want to hurt the computer at times. But I am still able to do stuff. This is something that I want people to understand about me. I am not defined by the desktop environment that I use. I use KDE. I use GNOME. I have my preferences, yes. But because I have that diversity and I'm able to work it within different ranges, I am also able to understand that certain things just make no sense.
Right.
And there's plenty in Unity in and of.
But here's what's bizarre. And it's bizarre and great at the same time, okay? We have so much choice in Linux compared to any other operating system out there. I think everyone will agree to that. And that's an awesome thing. Sometimes it's a pain in the neck that we have so much choice because, you're tempted to move from one thing to another and what happens. So, but somewhere out there is a whole group of people that absolutely love what I'm going to call generic or standard Ubuntu. They've spent 6 months, a year, 2 years with it. They're into it. They could not foresee using or trying anything else. And they're sitting there watching this video of you and I bashing it right now. And they're furious. How could you say that? This is the most awesome operating system ever invented. And so I'm always mindful of that. And so my statement is if that works for you and you dig it, and like you said, I have no doubt that I could do everything that I needed to do with Ubuntu proper within Unity. All the hardware and everything works. All of that stuff, the stability and all of that, I'm sure that's there. But I have choice, and I know what those choices are. And because of that, I cannot wait to remove this from my computer. Hey, Matt Moore, right? Matt Moore's been doing videos for years, right?
Yep.
So I watched, I don't even remember. I was going through just clicking on, my subscribed channels and that kind of thing. And he had a video on Ubuntu, and I'm like, hey, I need to watch this. And man, he was just going off on it. And he said the same thing I was actually feeling, which is he said, I can't wait to wipe this thing off of my hard drive and put something else on there. And that's exactly the way I feel. And, again, man, my glass is always half full. But in this case, I just want to pour the glass out and empty it and then throw the glass away.
Okay. Let's see how I can. I've used Linux for a long, long time, as you have. I've seen a lot of desktops. Well, I'll go even so far as to say the one I originally wanted us to do, Rob, was a version of KDE 3.5 that still lived on. But we went on to Ubuntu because I found that it was a video you hadn't done. B, I know you have a love-hate relationship with Unity. I have my own gripes with it. For those that want to know, just go to my, you guys want to see what my initial thoughts of Unity are, like 11.10, like around 11.10, before they went long-term. You will see exactly how I feel about Unity, because there's a whole lot of swearing. There's still stuff that
want to see the R-rated version of this video. Is that what you're saying, Matt?
I specifically do a screencast called was it Ubuntu Unity Design Inconsistencies or something along those lines. I made that it's like 5 years old now, but a lot of the stuff still holds true. It's like, why does it take me 6 clicks to find an application without searching for it? You know, there's stuff like that is still present in current Unity 5 years later.
Yeah.
Why? That's where I think that's what bugs me. Like the search speed, you know, like when you search for stuff, it's fast. When it is stable, like the Ubuntu base is good. Unfortunately, like we said, when we talk about Unity or Ubuntu, you have to kind of talk Unity. And that's where a lot of the conversation will devolve to, unfortunately. Because we're to the point now, there are so many Ubuntu-based distros and all this other stuff that the only thing that really differentiates Ubuntu from anything else is the desktop.
That's right. You know, and at some point, okay, we're not the only two guys in the universe, in the Linux universe, who really does not get into Unity. You know, we're not the only two guys who really don't like Unity. You know, there are lots of people out there that I know who share the same feelings that we do about the Unity desktop. Not Ubuntu, but the Unity desktop itself. So here's my thought, is what will Canonical do there? Are they going to listen to people like us and other people in forums? You know, are they going to pay attention to that kind of thing and say, hey, we really do need to loosen this thing up some as far as the restrictions on, you know, configuration here and customization there, and kind of give the people what they're asking for? Because if you get into the forums, I mean, there's lots of people out there who are calling for the same things we are, that we're, you know, picking on in this video. So are they going to do that? Or are they going to go into their inner circle and say, no, we feel like we know what's best here, and, you know, we're going to do this? Now, I have not taken a look at Unity 8. I know it's possible to install it. You talked about it. Apparently, it still feels like it's in alpha stage. What are you seeing in Unity 8, or what did you see in Unity 8 that would lead you to think that maybe they're listening, or perhaps the opposite, they're not listening?
From what I've seen from Unity 8, God. The problem with talking Unity 8 is that it sounds like all marketing pitch. And that's what I hate, and I don't really like getting into marketing pitches as opposed to functionality. You can see where Canonical is going, where their vision is. From the phone to the laptop to, you know, the desktop and all that other stuff, you know, the convergence.
Right.
Thing. You can understand it, I think, when you see it in action. It doesn't necessarily mean you like where it's going, because it feels like they're putting the focus, while they might say they're not focusing strictly on mobile, there's a focus on mobile. It's a lot like what I see for Unity 8 is what I see Android trying to do. You know, things like Remix OS and all these other ones that are trying to make Android, you know, a traditional UI and you know, a traditional desktop, you know,
Right.
laptop system. That is the vibe that I get of what they're trying to do with Ubuntu Touch across the board with all together. So I get where they're going with that, and I get the design is going to be different because of the form factor, you know, the laptop or the desktop, as opposed to the phone or the tablet, and the UI elements shift to that. And I get that, but how long are we going to wait? They've been working on this. I'm going to be generous and say whenever they announced the Ubuntu Edge phone. And that was at least 2014. And we are 2.5 years removed from that.
Right.
And we're still waiting.
And here's the problem I see with it as well. I mean, I've got a Remix Mini back here on my shelf somewhere because I'm into, you know, that kind of stuff. And, you know, I'm always watching. I couldn't tell you how many Chromebooks I bought last year and returned. But, you know, it's like, and Google woke up and said, hey, we've got this ecosystem out here with apps. If we could make that work within Chrome OS, now we've got something. And you see, and then you had people like Remix showing Google, hey, this is the way you could do this, and here's how you can make this happen. All of that is very, very interesting. But here's my point to Canonical as far as Unity is concerned. If I don't like, as a matter of fact, if I can't stand your desktop environment on your OS, what in the world makes you think that I'm going to want that on a phone, right? Or what in the world makes you think I'm going to want that on a tablet? You know, if I'm turned off by your OS as a whole, I'm not going to start. Let me put it this way. I will not start using Ubuntu Unity simply because maybe you've got a good implementation of that on your phone. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know their motivation there. I like the idea behind it. So, for example, if the folks at KDE, and I know they're working on mobile plasma, you know, I've read a few articles on that, and I very much enjoy using, you know, KDE Plasma 5.8 and up. How that would work on a phone is yet to be seen, but I would be much more apt to try a Plasma version of a phone or a tablet because I so much enjoy using it on my computer. And I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it kind of weird here, but I mean, is that okay? If I did not enjoy, it's different with Android. You can't really look at Android because the phone came first, right? And I think that's why you had such an interest in Chrome OS in the beginning, because you have so many, how many millions of Android users are there out there who really like their Android phones and said, oh, wow, I'm going to go to Chrome OS because I know all of these apps and I can use all of this stuff. Well, in the end, they were drawn to it, but the implementation wasn't exactly ideal for a lot of people, right?
It was Linux with a Chrome browser bolted on front.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it became.
That's right, but it did not meet the user's expectations.
No.
And so, you know, they love to talk about the numbers of Chromebooks that are sold every year. What they don't quote you, however, is the number of returns on those Chromebooks every year. Like I said, last year, I bet you I purchased 3, maybe 4 versions of Chromebook. Not that I thought the OS was going to change. I knew that was going to stay the same, but I was trying to find a good mix of hardware there. And every time I told myself, hey, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this work. And I never did. So you got to be careful there. You can't get caught up in your own, what's the saying? You've got to eat your own dog food. You know, if you make dog food and you promote it and you push it out there, at some point you've got to eat your own dog food to know for sure that you're doing what you should be doing. And I'm just, you know, as far as moving out there to a phone and moving to a tablet, I think Canonical would be better off to focus on listening to folks like maybe like us and the many, many other people out there who are saying, hey, we've got some ideas here for you based on experience, you know.
I love the idea of convergence. Unfortunately, the reality is Microsoft has tried it. You've had BlackBerry try it in a certain way between the phone and the tablet. You've had, I love the idea of convergence. Your phone is your computer. That
Microsoft tried it right here.
Yep, there you go. Point in case. Microsoft tried it with Continuum. Where's that gotten them? They have the new what is the HP Spectre phone or whatever the hell it's called. People will say the idea is great, but the implementation is crap. How long? And customers are great ideas take time, and anybody in tech would understand that. How much time though? Because Canonical has had 4 phones out that I'm aware of in the last 2 years. You had 2 BQs and you had 2 Meizu phones that have come out. Those are specifically in the Meizu devices. Those are the devices that you should have been pushing as the convergence phone. What did you push as the convergence device? A tablet. When tablet sales have sank across the board for Android, for iOS, iOS or iPads, tablet shipments have gone down. Why, as your convergence device, are you going to use a tablet when the specs are crap out and out because it was like it was a MediaTek processor, it was limited RAM, it was just limited. That is concerning. If you're going to push a convergence device and you say it's the phone, then I'm trying not to swear. Stick to the product that is going to be what people are using, not the one that is falling down the charts.
Right.
And if that's your focus, that is great. But don't hold the carrot out in front of the horse and tell them, "Oh, it'll get better," and then the horse kind of falls off the cliff. Because legitimately, that is what you're doing to Canonical right now to a lot of the desktop users. When it'll get better with Unity 8.
Right. Well, like good conversation about technology. I love good conversation about technology, and you and I and people like us could probably go on for hours and hours and hours, and go full circle on a lot of this stuff. And I don't want to get too far removed from Ubuntu. But what I do want, for me, I want to sum it up this way. If anyone in the Linux world or universe or whatever you want to call it has the power and the backing and the notoriety and the expertise and the the developers, the talent to really do an OS like off the charts, I think it would be Canonical. I think from a team perspective, from the resource perspective, from the following perspective, everything's in place. And, I'm going to bring up DistroWatch, okay? Put whatever credence into DistroWatch you want to put into them. They're ranking in DistroWatch and has been for forever, it seems like. But there's so much out there that, in my humble little YouTube channel opinion, is so much better. And I'm going to, again, use Ubuntu Mate as a prime example there. I'm even going to say Ubuntu. So, But yet you've got Canonical here again with all this talent, all this backing, all the resources. Guys, focus in on the desktop and make something that absolutely knocks our socks off. Make something that ZDNet wants to write an article about.
My advice to Canonical: focus where you want to go. People start using Ubuntu on servers because they used it at home. That's why you have as much market in the server space and the IoT and, you know, all these other places, drones and all this other stuff. That's why you have such a market in those areas, because developers and system admins and tinkerers. I mean, who was it? GeoHots, the guy that had the Ubuntu hacked self-driving car. I mean, you know, this is the guy that, you know, hacked the PS3 and the iPhone and all these other things. And it was Ubuntu powered. So the thing is, they just need to focus. If convergence is your thing, focus on the phone. Yes, everything else will feel like an afterthought, and that is okay to do, but don't keep dragging and pretending that you're doing it for your other core users. Don't be Apple.
Right.
Because to the desktop and to the desktop users and the laptop, you know, the traditional Linux users, yes, we're the smaller minority now, quote unquote, of that. Don't treat us like Apple treats its MacBook Pro users or its Mac Pro users, and just kind of, yeah, we'll just keep this going along so you buy into iOS. You know, don't do that, because you will find that your butt will be dropped quicker than you will realize.
You mean like what you're saying is like, we know what's good for you. We designed it this way because this is the way we think you should use it, and we know better than you do. That kind of philosophy? Is that what you are?
There's such a, I don't want to say design by committee, because that is not what I mean. There's such a adherence to a specific design and vision that they're looking for that I'm not going to get political, but it's almost kind of like left and right.
Yeah.
You know, they're not, and you know, you can make all the suggestions in the world you want to on the mailing list for the design team, all you want. They're the ones to make the call whether or not they're going to do anything about it.
Right.
And the simple fact of the matter is 90% of the time they don't. And you want to know why your users will get frustrated? The ones that use it every day, that's why. So focus on something, one thing. It doesn't matter what. But don't drag people around with a carrot on the stick mentality. Don't be Apple. Because my biggest thing is, when Canonical, you are a multi-million-dollar company now. You have the backing of freaking Mark Shuttleworth, for Christ's sakes.
Right.
What I will say is, when other teams that are much smaller than you, make far less much money than you, are far less robust in what they have access to, do a better job in an area that you're not paying attention in, they're going to steal that market. And if that market goes away, like BlackBerry.
Here's a prime example of what you just said. I'm going to use OB Revenge, a distribution, Arch-based distribution, rolling release, made by one man, Jody James. He's got a panel changer when you launch in. It's robust. You can go in and configure practically everything. I think it's an awesome distribution made by one man who, by the way, taught himself on his own how to program. You know,
one of my last course, and this is, you know, unfortunately, when you talk Ubuntu, you talk Canonical and Unity and all this other stuff. I'll end my statement like how I feel about Ubuntu and where it's at currently with this. When these smaller teams, be it Linux Mint, be it Elementary OS, be it Deep in Linux, be it any of these other smaller distros are doing a better job supporting your customers with their product than you are with your own.
There you have it.
And if you're looking for a consistent design UI, why are those specific? And I'm going to be very specific here. Why do Deepin and Elementary? You know what you're getting, you know the design paradigm, and you know where they're looking for. And they do all those things cohesively, better designed, and done with a more laser focus than a multi-million-dollar company can seem to do.
You said something just now that I think will close out our opinion and our argument here. Why do you think Linux Mint is as popular as it is? I think it's because people wanted something other than what Canonical was giving them with Ubuntu proper. I think that's a huge part of it.
It is. Now, don't get me wrong. I have my own issues with Mint, Mint and Cinnamon. I have my own issues there. Don't get me wrong. But I do agree.
Yeah. Well,
all I'm going to end is the smaller teams are doing it better than the big team. That's like, I'm not equating the team to that. That's like the AAA team beating the major league team.
Exactly. Well, we'll wrap it up there, Matt. And you know what? I truly am glad that we kind of went down this path, because it's easy to forget, kind of what is available, and it allows me to really appreciate, like I'm really looking forward to closing this out and going back to work on Antergos with KDE. But no, it helps to put things in perspective as well. And again, for those of you out there who are thrilled with Ubuntu proper and you're digging Unity, that is awesome. I'm so thrilled for you that you've got something there that you enjoy using, and don't change on my account, whatever you do. But I think these kinds of conversations are good. They're constructive. And who knows, maybe a conversation like this, maybe not from us, but maybe a conversation like this gets back to the right person within Canonical, and they decide, hey, maybe we should take a look at what we're doing here and the path we're going. So, maybe in the end, this is a constructive, positive thing. So even though we've been pretty negative. So thank you, Matt. And hey, Matt, your video you'd mentioned, if they go to your channel, Dark1778, is that right?
That is right.
On YouTube. What about time frame wise? What would they look for to find that?
Oh, dear Lord. That would at least be probably, 5 years ago that I made that video. So,
okay.
All I have to do is go to my channel and look for just type in inconsistency or something, and you'll find it. So I give a better breakdown of how I really feel about it in a much shorter explanation.
Well, Matt, I appreciate it, man, and we'll have to find some obscure distro and do another one.
Yep, sounds good, bud.
All right, have a good one. We'll check you later.
Yep.